Assalamualaikum and a very good morning. I am Amira Nadia binti Muhammad Aziz, along with my other friends for nuclear law. We will be presenting for nuclear protection. So what do we know about nuclear protection? So basically what we'll be presenting and what others will be presenting is how the nucleus be protected basically. And currently we do have a lot of countries currently have nuclear sources. For example, we do have United States and Iran, North Korea, who are very, very good at what they do with nuclear. So without further ado, I will pass the floor to my other friends to introduce to you guys what nuclear protection is all about. Thank you.
So moving on to the role of regulatory body. A fundamental element of a national framework for the development of nuclear energy is the creation of regulatory bodies in which they have legal powers in order to ensure that ionizing radiation operates safely and securely. Structuring regulatory bodies are to protect public health, safety and the environment. The regulatory body should be structured in such a way as to ensure that it is capable of discharging its responsibilities and carrying out its function effectively, efficiently and independently. The International Commission for Radiation Protection, which is ICRP, is an international regulatory body. Each country has its national counterpart of the ICRP. The Commission consists of 12 members, a chairman and a secretary who are chosen from across the world based on their expertise. So, the role of regulatory bodies shall establish, promote or adopt regulations and guides upon which its regulatory actions are based. The system of regulations and guides shall be chosen to suit the legal system of the state and the nature and extent of the facilities and activities to be regulated. Next, regulatory bodies should establish a basic foundation of performance regulations that is consistent with the general principle of radiation safety. Regulation should be based on the basic safety standards and other international standards for radiation protection and the safety of radiation sources. For intervention in emergencies, the regulatory body is required to ensure that the operators develop specific arrangements for preparedness and respond for any practice or source that could necessitate an emergency intervention. Together with other national and local intervening organizations, as appropriate, should participate in the development and implementation of the National Emergency Plan and should have a general plan or plans to coordinate and support the protective action foreseen by the emergency plan of operators. Thank you.
Okay, hi, Assalamualaikum. So moving on to the next part, which is these activities and facilities requiring a license. First, I will give definitions about what is actually facilities. Facilities literally includes the nuclear facility itself, the radiations installation, some mining or raw material processing the facilities such as the uranium mines, radioactive waste management facilities, and any other places where radioactive material is produced, processed or used, handled or stored or disposed of where the radiations generators are installed on such a scale that the consideration of protection and safety is required. And second, for the definition for activities actually includes the production, use, import and export of radiation sources for industrial, research and medical purposes, the transport of the radioactive material, the decomposition of facilities, and radioactive waste management activities such as the discharge of influence and some aspects of the remediations of sites infected by radius from the past activities. So, what are those activities or facilities that require a license? So first, the activities involving radiation is issued to a person who fulfills the prescribed condition for pursuing the radiation activities. Not only that, the authority competent for the nuclear safety will give the license to the competent individual. And then next, I will give some examples of documents that are required for us to require the license. Some of that are the assessment of the protection of imposed workers against radiation. Second is certificate of assessment of the protection of exposed workers against radiations, and the copy of evidence of appointment for the person who is responsible for the radiation protection and their powers. And there are many other documents that we need to fulfill. And next, I will give the examples of the radiation protection programs that have been happen in the world. For example, are the dental X-ray, the diagnostic radiology, fixed gauges, industrial radiography, nuclear medicines, portable gauges, radiotherapy, well logging, and X-ray CT scanners. These are the programs, or these are the activities that required the license for us because it involved radiations. Last but not least, I will give example in the Canada. So in Canada, what happened there was the possession and the use for the nuclear substances and the radiation devices are regulated by the Canadian Regular Safety Commission, CNSC, in accordance with the Nuclear Safety and Control Acts. It is associated with the regulations and CNSC license itself. Therefore, before we license to possess or to use any radiation devices, we must ensure that the radiation devices that we intend to possess are certified by the CNSC. All the radiation devices that contain more than the exemption quantity of the nuclear substance are required to be certified by the management prior to their use in the Canada. So maybe perhaps one day, if Malaysia have our own nuclear plantations or any radiation prevention, we can use the example in Canada. Thank you so much.
Which requires a legislative body or regulatory framework which requires a given system of licensing in regard to nuclear installation. License here means any authorization granted by the regulatory body to the applicant to have the overall responsibility for the siting, design, construction, commissioning, decommissioning, and other operation of a nuclear installations. However, when issuing license, conditions are given to be complied. While the conditions may vary in format, in general it is the same. It has the basic qualities that characterize, I think we repeat very much.
Okay. So now we shall proceed to the next part. I will discuss about the specific issues. Here I will discuss about 3 main specific issues that we need to focus on. So for the first specific issues is about doses and dose limit. Okay, so what is dose? Dose is a measure of the radiation received by a target. And dose limit is a value of the effective or equivalent dose to individual that may not be exceeded in activities and regulatory control. Okay, so this dose limit is very okay. Aku tak nampak. So this dose limit has been set for various activities, and it is very important for us to set the limit in order to ensure that no one is exposed to an excessive amount of ionizing radiation. Okay, so move to the next part about the transboundary effects of radiation. So, transboundary effect of radiation, it is a very great concern. It's not only to human health but also to ecological health. Okay, let me give you an example for what had happened in 1986. What was happened in 1986 is there was an explosion at the nuclear reactor facility at Chernobyl in Russia, where it is result in the release into the atmosphere of 3.5% of the reactor's radioactive material. And what was happened resulted from the explosion is the elevated radiator level were recorded in Sweden in the very next day, and it is not only affected in Sweden but also in Finland. Okay, so when this is happening, the state that likely to be affected should consult and given several data, enabling them to assess the likely safety impact within their national territory. Okay, so for the last main issue, specific issue that we need to concern is about the radiation from cosmic rays. So firstly, we must start that cosmic rays have nothing to do with the radiation, but it does. The galactic cosmic rays detected by ACE that allow the team to estimate the age of the cosmic rays and the distance of their source contain a radioactive form of ion cell iron 60. So I think that's all from me. Thank you.
Conclusion: the present conservative concept and models for radiation protection provide adequate protection. The standard of radiation protection across the OECD areas appears good and sometimes excellent. A similar conclusion can be drawn for some but not all countries throughout the world. Radiation protection is a dynamic field. It has undergone a significant evolutionary period during the past few decades. General improvement of protection techniques and technology is expected to continue. In addition, much is going on in fundamental research, particularly in the molecular biology area, which could alter the scientific foundation upon which today's protection is based. This could lead to more efficient use of resources allocated to protection as well as other benefits. There continues to be a number of challenges for protection specialists. One, for example, is satisfactorily addressing and demonstrating adequate protection for those aspects of waste disposal which continue to be the subject of public controversy. Also, finding practical ways to apply the concept of potential exposure to a variety of practices will require continuing development effort. Another and very important challenge is involving the interest social parties in protection decision and adequately taking into account the social dimension of such decision. Because of the dynamic nature of the protection field, the prospect of new radiation and nuclear practices and changing public attitudes toward risk, it is important that the wealth of expertise and resources for protection and related field which has been accumulated so far is preserved in order to guarantee adequate and cost-effective protection. With that, thank you.